And that really is what I have to say. And I would like to thank Nukits and Ali and the WA Genesis community for having me here today. The original brickyard excavation was funded from the Fonds Jeunesse Québec, and I'm very grateful for their support. So thank you very much. Okay, I see John, maybe, Nukit, we have time for some questions?
Yes, we do. I was just going to say, please take your time. Yeah.
If you do have a question, please come forward towards me, or I can come out towards you so that I can hear what you have to say.
Hey Sean, it's Joe Rigby here. How are you?
Hi Joe, good to see you again.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Certainly has. I'm just going to step a little bit closer, Joe, so I can hear you.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
I guess I'm thinking about this a little selfishly. If you remember, about 2 or 3 years ago, I contacted you over Skype and showed you that we were making realistic models of the Titanic and other
Yes.
very, very realistic high polygon modeling. And you were very, very, very graciously actually blogged about us. And we managed to get some 3D Studio Max models from UCLA and the King's College. And we've actually managed to import those into a Web Alive environment. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to have a look at them.
I haven't yet, but now that I'm...
But it'd be really, really, I'd really appreciate it if you'd have a go and have a look at these, because we're obviously kind of excited about it. And just ask a question. I'll ask you a simple question. I really appreciate what you said about the virtual worlds aspect of something like a medieval cathedral, right? I can almost imagine the effect of that when you lived in the medieval world where everybody lived in basically sackcloth and hides and had very little colour in their lives, and yet you could walk into a cathedral and look through a stained glass window. I can imagine the effect would be mind-blowing. And how do you think we can, because as you say, our brains are now to the point where can we get that kind of transcendental experience now? Where you literally experience something that is literally, going to have that kind of wow effect.
Well, I think that wow effect is still out there. It's still out there for me when I go into a cathedral. But it's my interest is in things digital, so I have been blown away by some of the virtual worlds that I've experienced, and it's not. Well, I was in one and I was really quite into it, and then when I turned off the computer and stepped away, the abrupt transition from projecting my sense of self into the world to, oh, I'm sitting at my computer desk again, that when I stood up, it was actually quite disorienting and I was quite dizzy, and that, so the order of befuddlement was reversed in a sense. But it's possible, I think, and with it, as the technology continues to improve, it's going to be more profound, I think.
Well, it's
On the other hand, anytime I predict the future, you should take that with a grain of salt, because I also wrote as an undergraduate in the early 90s that this internet web malarkey wasn't worthwhile and would never amount to anything either. So my ability to predict the future is suspect.
Oh, don't worry about that. It's just, I think it's the explanation you gave, I thought, for being, like, say, in the Lascaux caves, deep underground with flickering flames. You think, yeah, I'd imagine that would be, again, to a primitive mind, it would be a nasty shock to be able to go and see that. And especially if you were taking a few herbs and helping you along. And,
well, I went caving last summer, and that was my first experience of caving. And you drop into this shaft out of the world of sunlight, and suddenly everything is dark and echoey, and the disorientation begins quite quickly. So that, and that's something that the ancients went for. But I think if the ancients had, they knew what they were on about.
Well, I hate to make this statement, but since I've been working with the technical experts in Millennium here, and being able to use all those intense detail models in Web Alive, I must admit I'm still in a state of shock. And I hope you get the opportunity to look at it, because just from my point of view, it's been a tremendously big wow experience to see what
I will take a look at them later today, Joe.
Perfect. That's great. That's all we can ask for. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sean.
There was a question further back, I think. I thought I saw somebody raise a hand.
I think it was Nick. I think it was Nick leaving, but I actually have a question, Sean. So I am not a historian and not an expert, but there's definitely this learning that we by experience. It's just a matter of amusement, right? We are visiting this historical site and trying to learn the way of living. There is a wisdom that we are receiving by doing that, and it seems to be that learning seems to be getting less and less. Maybe not community so much aware of that learning. Maybe that's only my perception, but that's the feeling that I seem to be getting, that we are just visiting but not necessarily understanding the way of living, not necessarily trying to digest the information that this structure is telling, trying to tell to us, or this way of living trying to teach us. I was wondering if that's one way of using virtual art. I'm referring to discussion that we have with you on Cappadocia, how the way of living can be represented and can be presented to community. I wonder what you think about that, in terms of maybe capturing this message and presenting it in a different way so that community can reach it more easily, maybe. Or and also the other question that the other thinking that going through my mind is the same way, maybe future, like have you come across any project about how it would be to create future and try to learn some of the mistakes that we are doing as of today by creating it and showing that how it would reflect in future and maybe correct some of the behaviors that we are having. So I wonder if you have any comments or any thoughts on these two way of approaching using virtual worlds
Okay. Well, part of the problem with representing the past in any kind of medium is the thing is that historical thinking is what Sam Weinberg calls an unnatural act. It's something that we're not familiar with. It's something that we're uncomfortable with. And why it's unnatural is that if we study the past, we're doing it because at some level we feel some kind of kinship or connection with the people that we're trying to study. But at the same time, the people that we're studying are fundamentally different than ourselves. So it's like Paul Lowenthal, I think, says, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. So it's how do you resolve that tension between kinship and strangeness? And when you walk into a virtual reconstruction of a site, you initially interpret it through your sense of kinship.